Great. So welcome everyone. I'm Linda McNowitz, the Building Bright Futures Regional Coordinator for Orleans, Essex, Caledonia counties, coming to you live from Burlington, Vermont, though, because I realized that my internet at home in Westmore, Vermont is so bad that I was like, what am I thinking? How am I ever going to do this forum? So I drove to Burlington. I have a sister that lives here, and this is the best internet I've ever experienced. So anyway, at one point I thought maybe I could just sit outside the library in Barton, but anyway, so that's my story in terms of internet connection. As most of you know, Building Bright Futures is responsible for bringing together key stakeholders in our region to engage in discussions about how to best coordinate and enhance the early care and education system and for services to our families in our region. So I am really also pleased to be joined tonight by Charlie Glisserman from the Vermont Early Childhood Advocacy Alliance, who will be sharing the moderating duties with me this evening. So Charlie, would you like to introduce yourself a little bit more and say something about the Alliance?
Absolutely. I am so happy to be joining you, Linda, and all of you. Thank you. So my name is Charlie Glisserman. I'm the Public Engagement Director with the Vermont Early Childhood Advocacy Alliance. And the Alliance is a coalition of stakeholders from businesses to early educators to parents and families, you name it, that are working together to promote the well-being of young children and families at the State House. And so part of the reason why I work with Linda a lot is making sure that all of the people at the BBF regional councils understand what's happening at the State House and feel like they have the tools to engage in the process. And so part of that is making sure that they get out to vote and have a really educated vote and hear from candidates like you. So thank you for joining us this evening. So this evening, we have 3 prepared candidate questions, and then we'll have 2 minutes for closing statements and the potential for audience questions if they come in. For the first question, you'll have 3 minutes. That'll give you some time to answer the question as well as introduce yourself. And then the last 2 questions will be just 2 minutes. I will just kind of go around in a circle on my screen if that works for you all, and we'll give time signals with my hands. So when you have 2 minutes left, it'll be 2 minutes, 1 minute will be 1, and then when you are done, you'll see one of these little T's, and if you go really, you're really enthusiastic, I might have to verbally tell you that it's time to move on, but I think we'll all be very respectful. We've seen what can happen when people aren't respectful in debates. So trust that we'll have a good one. Does anyone have any questions before we start off?
No.
Okay. So the first question, Vermont is well positioned to become a work from home capital, but consistent broadband access across the state is key to realizing this goal. Nearly 70,000 Vermonters currently lack internet connection or have limited service, and I think Linda's story also really showcases the challenges that people face. This makes working from home and learning from home and telehealth services impossible. What steps would you take to quickly address the immediate emergency facing households without sufficient internet access, while also planning for a future that will require increased, faster internet speeds? So starting off, Senator Starr, do you want to answer this question?
Sure, I'll take a whack at it. Are we supposed to introduce ourselves right now?
Yeah. Yes, please.
Well, anyhow, you call me Senator Starr, but most people call me Bobby. And it's really great to be here this evening with you folks on this forum. And I want to thank both Linda and Charlie and Sarah for setting this all up. I've represented our Orleans or Essex Orleans district in the state Senate for about 16 years, and have served in a variety of capacities there. But I've always been a constant on the Ag Committee. When I first went over to the Senate, moved on to being the chair of the Senate Ag Committee, and have run the Ag Committee for, I guess, about 8 or 10 years. And when in the Senate, you serve in two committees. And my second committee has been a variety of different committees. I served on transportation, as well as for a couple of years served on education for 4 or 6 years, and was chair of the Ed Committee at the same time as I was chairing the Ag Committee, and eventually worked my way up to be a member on the Appropriations Committee, which I've been there for, I guess, 8 or 10 years, and that's been very rewarding. It's a lot of work. I'm glad I'm retired from my regular work, so I have time to devote to these things. But both committees, Ag and Appropriations, I've been very proud of the work that we've done and accomplished in helping our children. As far as your question goes on broadband, we've spent well over $100 million trying to get that developed out to our rural communities over the past few years. And it's just amazing how fast the money disappears and how slow the wire goes up to cover our communities. And I know that it's a very important issue. We have over, I believe, over 30 communities now that Catherine Sims has put together to work on coming up with a solution for this. But in short time, just a couple of words, I think that we're going to have to band together with the federal government and the state government and the locals, like we did when REA, rural electrification, was put in back in the late 30s and early 40s. So with that, I guess I'm out of time, so I'll pass it back to you, Charlie.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Senator Starr. Next, we have Representative Marcotte. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Charlie, and thank you, Linda. Appreciate you putting this together. I think it's important for all of us to get together and have this discussion. So I have been in the House for 16 years. I have spent all of my 16 years on the House Committee on Commerce and Economic Development. 10 of those years as the vice chair, and the last 2 years as the chair of the committee. I agree totally with what Bobby said. We have spent a lot of money on broadband and cell, trying to get the state high-speed internet to our rural areas and throughout the state. We started back in the early 2000s, around 2008, with creating the Vermont Telecom Authority. Then came the issue with the economy dropping, and we received ERA monies. Lots and lots of federal dollars flowed into the state, but as Bobby said, we haven't seen the progress that we actually need to have happen. And I do believe that the communication union districts were created in my committee. I helped work on that. In the last 4 years, my committee was relieved of telecommunications, and a new energy and technology committee was formed. So since then, we haven't really worked on the telecom, but it was a real interest of mine because of our rural areas up here, trying to get that high-speed broadband that's needed. And I think we've just found out just how much we need it, because we've seen the rural areas during COVID with our children having to remotely learn, and a lot of them couldn't do that. And so I fully support what Catherine has been doing with the communication union districts, and hope that we all can band together. I know 28 towns up here have, but we also need the federal government, and hopefully this becomes the wake-up call for the federal government, that our rural areas are really struggling for high-speed internet.
Thank you. Next, we have Representative Page. You have 3 minutes.
Again, just want to reiterate, thank you for having me at your forum tonight. And I'm Woody Page, and I've just completed my first term as the Orleans 2 District Representative. And I represent Newport City, Newport Center, Coventry, Irisburg, and a small portion of Troy. And I share this responsibility with my senior co-legislator, Mike Markoff. I am a Republican, and I currently serve on the Healthcare Committee, which I feel is that I'm very fortunate to be on the Healthcare Committee, since we have our hospital in Newport, and I like to think that I am protecting our hospital's interests, but also the needs, our healthcare needs of everyone in the area. I also serve on the National Guard Caucus, which just recently stood up, and that caucus is there to, I believe, help with the mission, help the National Guard in assisting in its mission to protect Vermonters as well as our nation. I also serve on the Rural Development Caucus, which obviously is trying to help with our development in our rural areas. Regarding your question about broadband service for our households, you mentioned 70,000 Vermonters are without internet connection. And I saw where the Public Utilities Service Commissioner stated that through their work, only maybe about 10%, or roughly maybe a little less than 7,000 would be helped by December of this year when the funding runs out. Obviously, their effort is targeting the low-hanging fruit, those areas that are easy to access and to get people connected. And like Bobby and Mike, I feel that's what's needed is a national, federally operated program like the original Rural Electrification Administration program that took place in the 30s under Roosevelt. We need a rural broadband internet administration, and I think the concept would be very much similar to the Rural Electrification Administration. It would help, if we were able to do this, it would help raise our standards of living in our rural areas, and perhaps increase more migration to our rural areas in Vermont rather than the opposite. So I'm with Bobby and Mike. We need a rural broadband internet administration. We need federal assistance, just as we went through this in the 30s under Roosevelt. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Representative Lefebvre. You have 3 minutes.
Oh, thank you. I'm Representative Paul Lefebvre of Newark. I represent the district of Essex, Caledonia, Orleans, which is 8 towns, Bloomfield, Brighton, Canaan, East Haven, Leamington, Newark, Norton, the United Towns and Gores, and what we asked is Westmore and Orleans County. So it's a stretch sometimes for a representative to make those kind of rounds. But you know, my area, my district, I mean, we're land rich and cash poor. And so consequently, being underserved, the Northeast Kingdom has rightly been called the poster child for rural areas underserved by broadband. And if, you know, we labor, one of the calls I got during the COVID crisis and from constituents was they didn't have broadband good enough to teach their children to stay at home. And so basically, I agree with what the past speakers have said about a lot of help from the federal government. I don't think there's any quick and immediate solution. I think the extension of broadband has to become a very critical priority for rural development. And I will do my part to try to make it so. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Representative Strong. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you so much. And again, thank you, Linda, Charlie, and those who helped organize. Thank you for the emails of reminders. So I'm Representative Vicki Strong. I've served 5 terms in our legislature. It's been a privilege to be there. And wow, I've learned a lot serving on numerous committees. So in the 10 years I've been there, I've been on healthcare, judiciary, general housing and military affairs, and now I'm on the Ag Committee. And each committee addresses whole different sectors of our economy and needs as a state. But overall, I've seen that every sector now of our economy and our daily life is affected by our internet access. And ever since Shumlin was in office, was when I started, the promises have been made. We're going to get this done. It's going to be done by such and such a year. And as you all know, many underserved people. So over the time I've been there, we have voted on numerous initiatives, tax increases, and then COVID hits and certainly exacerbates the need. And right before COVID was town meeting, and Catherine helped all those towns get a ballot. So we all voted to have the CUDs initiated. And hopefully that's going to be moving us forward. In the meantime, just as an emergency kind of services, we have put hotspots in a lot of our local areas. And one being, I made sure happened in Albany, at the church in Albany. And I know many other areas were given the opportunity, and also subsidies for internet for families, for their children who had internet access. As we move forward, I'll definitely be helping to vote on initiatives. And I'm hoping that as technology accelerates, we'll see even better ways to get internet access, perhaps even than what we even know or imagine today. So it's certainly a priority and a need now that never was as big a need as it was until now. We see it in every area: healthcare, education, our home jobs, and communicating with our friends and family. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Catherine Sims. You have 3 minutes.
Thanks, Charlie and Linda and others. This is so wonderful to have an opportunity to connect and talk about the issues that matter to voters. These opportunities have been so few in these unprecedented times, so really grateful for this opportunity to connect with all of you. So I'm Catherine Sims, and I'm running to be state representative for the Orleans-Caledonia district, representing Albany, Barton, Craftsbury, Greensboro, Glover, Sheffield, and Wheelock. I'm a mother, I'm a nonprofit leader, and a community builder, and I'm running to be a strong voice for our rural communities. Appreciate you calling attention to this critical issue of broadband. As we've heard from others, access to the internet is no longer a luxury. It's a necessity that we need it for students to learn, for employees to do work, for small businesses to connect with their consumers, to access our doctors. It's an essential tool. And unfortunately, our region is falling behind. less than half of the addresses in our region have access to speeds of 25.3, the minimum definition of FCC as access to broadband. This is an issue that I've been active on for over 2 years. It started with community listening sessions where we heard from Vermonters across the Northeast Kingdom that we need better connectivity. So then I helped host 3 broadband summits where we heard from experts across the state and beyond about what's working so that we could replicate that here. That led to working with over 27 towns to get a ballot measure to form a communication union district, which would allow our towns to work together to bond and raise revenue to build a network, because no one is coming to save us, and it's up to our communities to build the infrastructure that we need to connect all Vermonters. Fortunately, all 27 towns where that ballot initiative was on the town meeting day agenda, it passed in every single town thanks to our outreach and advocacy efforts. Now the Communication Union District has been formed. I serve on the board and the executive committee. I'm also a member of the Telecommunications Advisory Board, where just today we voted to approve the last round of connectivity grants, which will help connect more Vermonters during this time. We need to continue to invest in those short-term solutions like fixed wireless or hotspots and short, easy to complete fiber to the premise projects. But long-term, we need to continue to work to expand the capacity of the Communication Union District to build and operate the fiber network that we need to serve every E911 address and business. I've been a leader on this issue already and will continue to fight to ensure that we can connect everyone so that we all can take advantage of this critical tool. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Janine Young. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, everyone. Linda and Charlie and everyone. I'm Janine Young. I'm a native of the Northeast Kingdom, living in Craftsbury. I'm a Republican candidate running for the Orleans-Caledonia District, and Catherine's already listed the towns. As far as internet, as Vicki said, we had hotspots and free Wi-Fi locations that were put into place during the COVID. I think the quickest way to access internet is for more of those hubs. Current Representative Sam Young has been working on expanding the internet for about 6 years, and we still aren't there. I agree with the legislators who said that REA model would work to help get more high-speed internet into the areas. As Catherine mentioned, the towns formed a communications union district last spring, and they're working hard to get expanding internet speeds. I was looking at the cost for the monthly fees. I think that's still something that the low income might have a problem with getting. There's probably some subsidy that they will have. So I think that we're on the right track. And I think that as legislators, we will do everything we can to continue the expanding of broadband internet to everyone in the state. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, we have Martha Allen. You have 3 minutes.
I'll take 20 seconds because everybody said everything already. I'm glad I wasn't first. Hi, I'm Martha Allen. I live up in Canaan, so I'm in the northeast corner of the Northeast Kingdom. Paul listed all the names in the district that I'm running in, which is Orleans, Caledonia, Essex, Caledonia, Orleans. And I'm really hoping that folks will pay attention to this issue. It certainly has been brought to light in multiple ways. The biggest challenge that I've seen is with our schools. We have students who are working from home, but so are their parents. And so the bandwidth in the household gets exhausted immediately, used up, and so people have to take turns as to who's on which computer, and or if they have it. That's another issue that we've found with our schools, is that not everybody in a household has access to the same hardware before you can even get to what kind of internet coverage. So I think that that's something we should pay attention to. Some families aren't able to, I think it was mentioned, I think Janine mentioned it, some families aren't able to pay for the amount of the highest speed and then enough service. And so we need to really look at that to level the playing field for our kids and their working parents. I think we should be treating this as electricity. This is a definite, it's a need for everyone. It is something that we cannot get along without. And if we want to encourage young professionals and families to move to this area, they won't come here if they don't have high-speed internet access. It's just a non-starter. I mean, that's just end of the conversation. I'll go somewhere else. So I think it's really important. And if elected, I will certainly do everything I can to make sure that we are not left out on the sidelines with this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. And don't worry, we will go in a different order for our next question. So I will hand it over to Linda for our next question, but please keep an eye on my little box because I will continue to be our timekeeper.
All right, thank you, Charlie. So we're going to go alphabetical order by last name. So Martha, you're going to come up first on this question. So this is our question on childcare. As you received the question previously, overwhelmingly, Vermonters believe that childcare is essential. I don't think there's an argument about that. However, before COVID-19, 3 out of 5 Vermont's children didn't have access to the childcare they need. As a matter of fact, the Let's Grow Kids stalled at the START report indicated that 89% of the infants in Essex County did not have access to quality childcare. And a recent poll found that 75% of Vermonters support increasing state funding for childcare. And the Vermont Blue Ribbon Commission on Financing High Quality Affordable Childcare found that achieving an affordable, high quality childcare system would require investments of approximately $205 million per year. So with all that said, we're interested in hearing about your vision for Vermont's early care and education system and how would you propose funding this system?
Can I go first? All right, thank you, Linda. And also thank you to everyone for, I didn't mention last time, for having this forum. It is good to see people. I feel rather isolated up here in the corner. I understand entirely about this challenge. I have a son with in Essex, not Essex County, but in Essex with he and his wife have a little child, and he is in daycare, and they're concerned about the cost and can they even afford to have another child. And that, as a grandmother, it's like, what? We have to do something about this right now. So I really think it's important that we make sure that the children in the Northeast Kingdom have a high quality child care opportunity. And so you look at the mom and pop daycare situations that we've had over the years, and as the requirements have been risen so that to make sure that we give kids all the opportunities they need. I've been trying to figure out what to do. And I think that one of the things we should try to do is look at a community school model where small towns with small elementary schools that have some space available could incorporate full day, full year childcare starting at 6 weeks in their school to share resources, share finances, and kids would get the services they need. The ones who have challenges will be treated, will meet professionals to help them to learn and grow. Families can drop their children all off, all of them, the infant, the toddler, the elementary school child, all in one spot. Everyone knows where everyone is, and services could be brought to that facility. And I think it's been done before in other places in the country, and I think it's something we really should look into in order to help to curb expenses for parents and share the expenses across the public system.
Thank you, Martha. Next, we'll move to Representative LaFave. Same question for you.
Well, thank you. There was one of those burst out quotes in the Sunday paper this week about learning at home by remote. And the quote was that a working parent's worst nightmare is a snow day. And under this situation presently, every day is a snow day with kids having to stay home and try to become educated remotely. Of course, the stickler that we're facing now is affordability and accessibility to broadband. If there is an upside to the COVID, it may be we now have to realize we have to come together as a region. We have to acquire a regional identity, which will kind of help us, which I would hope would help us band together and use our own individual situations to more or less get federal dollars and perhaps get them through something like maybe a block grant in which regions would be singled out for where the greatest needs are. As I said before, we have a very strong case here for getting federal aid to bring in a more extensive broadband, a faster internet. And I think in the way that is really going to be the key to helping childcare centers and helping us move forward in an environment that's going to be much more different than it was pre-COVID. And I would hopefully see that as this kind of regional togetherness, this attempt now to kind of all pull together to more or less increase or improve our broadband facilities and help with the kind of learning that is going on today. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative LaFave. We'll go now to Representative Marcotte.
Thank you, Linda. We all know the importance of early childhood care and education. And I think what Martha was describing has actually been done here in Newport. Michelle Faust, who runs Northeast Kingdom Learning Services, opened up a center just last year. A fantastic idea that was starting to take off, but it was putting under the roof of one building all of the services that are needed, and so that kids could then transition from one to the other. And also they were able to bring umbrella and train people to cook so that they could go out and get a job. So things like that are great. The governor has also put together these hubs around the state. They're starting to go out now that will assist children that may not be able to go to school face-to-face and learn, but they can go to a hub to learn and to be taken care of while their parents are working. And so we're talking about our workforce. And this is something that my committee has been looking at for a number of years now. And we have had some very good discussions of where we need to go. One thought that has come up was, should early childhood care be part of our education system? And I think we need to really look at that and talk about it. But another part that needs to be part of that discussion is our businesses. Our businesses really need the workers. Right now, a lot of them are struggling because of COVID, and their workers can't get childcare. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Marcotte. Next, Representative Page, please. Same question to you.
Well, education, I think we all agree, is important for all of us. And it starts from the cradle and goes right on through to the grave. It's not a question of just getting one's degree or certificate and that's the end of it. But our educational experiences continues on through a lifetime. I just want to mention our colleges and universities, our state schools, Lyndon and Johnson and NBU, as well as Vermont Technical Colleges. Those schools are very important to this area, and not only to this area, but to the communities in which they serve. And I fully support the monies going to support those schools. I do feel that all Vermonters need to have access to high quality, affordable care. We're located if we were located in an urban area, businesses would be providing some of this childcare support for their workers, but that's not the case here. We do have nonprofits that are providing some assistance, such as East Craftsbury Presbyterian Church, and as Representative Marcotte mentioned, in our city of Newport, the Newport Early Childhood Care Center also provides good quality care. So I think it's a combination of maybe our schools, public schools providing some sort of assistance, our businesses, and maybe nonprofits. And I will also mention that I believe that this crisis, we didn't have this problem. We had a number of mom and pop, I guess, daycare facilities that have gone out of business due in part to some of our legislation, which has created this crisis. So now we have to try and fix it. And as I said, through a combination of businesses supporting it, nonprofits, and some of our public schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Page. Catherine, we'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, hi, thanks so much for this question. I believe that access to childcare is a family support issue, it's a gender equity issue, it's an economic development issue, and as a parent of a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, I get this challenge and issue on a really personal level. And as a founding board member for Craftsbury Saplings, the child care center in our community where my 3-year-old son Wyatt, who's behind me, goes, I know the realities of how difficult it is for a center to offer high quality programming, paying a livable wage to staff, and ensuring affordability for families. And so I will work very hard to expand and support existing programs. Some of the specific priorities that, okay, no, we hear you, you bumped your head. I'm talking to these folks about how important childcare is. Some of the specific priorities that I'd be focused on if elected are increasing wage support so that we can grow the workforce to serve the needs of our childcare centers, expanding our publicly funded pre-K program to a year-round full-day program, increasing the CCFAP subsidies for working families to make childcare more affordable, and supporting professional development for early childhood educators, including racial literacy programs. And you know, if elected, I'd be one of the few working legislators who's a working parent, and so I would bring my lived experience to the table around this really critical issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Thanks to your assistant there as well. We'll,
I just want to say she has props for that. I can hold up an old dog. That's the best I can do.
Senator Starr, we'll call on you next. And you're muted.
That was an improvement, wasn't it, being muted? No, but anyhow, thank you. And I've always lived here in Troy and served on the school board for 21 years. And really, I know how important early childhood education is. Got a kindergarten started and the preschool. Well, now that we have preschool in our school system, but children, I think, are our greatest resource, and we can never do too much to make sure they grow up healthy and strong and safe and especially be well educated. And in our appropriations committee, we've really spent a lot of money this last year with CRF funds to help move this all forward. And I don't know for sure how much it is, but it was well over, I believe, $50 million to help get programs started and to support our families for childcare. And I think that it's going to set the stage for future appropriations to help. And part of the question was, well, where's the money going to come from? And we all know that 20 is a bad year. And so when we do the 22 budget, it's going to be rough. But we did, not with my support, but we did pass the marijuana bill to legalize that, and there's going to be a tax on that, and it should generate quite a lot of money, and we might be able to fight hard enough to get some of that money to take care of our child care and help our children, hopefully. So it'll be a battle, but it's worth the fight, I'll tell you. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Starr. Representative Strong, I'll turn the floor over to you.
Thank you. Thank you for this good question. I want to thank also Building Bright Futures and Let's Grow Kids, who are always in the State House. Your presence is known really daily while we're in session, and you've had us over for lunches at the Capitol Plaza and keeping us abreast of needs. And one of those biggest needs that in the 10 years I've been in legislature, we've seen a 7% decline in actual childcare slots. So, and that's due to 200 home-based childcare programs closing over the last 10 years. So the need is high and some of the access is lower. And as we move forward, I'm grateful for a governor who sees this as a priority and will be in his budgets. But it's going to take more than just a governor and a legislature and a budget in our state house, because we're going to have huge challenges in the next few years financially. But I think we need to see innovation like we see in other areas of the country, where businesses themselves open up childcare access, or universities open childcare access. And I think we need to see an increase in our home-based providers to meet the needs that are local. And one of the, as I close, I just want to mention that this is the child care regulation book that we got several years ago. It was printed in 2016, and the regulations went up by almost 100 pages. And that's partly part of the reason we saw our home-based care facilities close. So we have to address where these regulations are right now, how relevant are they, and are they getting in the way? So we've got a lot of work cut out for us as a legislature and as communities, but we have to work together to meet the needs for growing families. And I think every family deserves a choice and the access that they need for their own needs. So thank you.
Thank you, Representative Strong. And Janine, we'll turn the floor over to you.
Thank you. I don't know if everyone's experiencing these same internet issues I am, but people are cutting in and out. So I have a good experience with the need for increased broadband or better internet service. I think I agree with Representative Page and Representative Strong on the issue of home-based care. The law right now says that you don't need to be registered or licensed if you only take care of your own children and up to 2 families. Well, one family could have 3 children, another family could just have 1. I think the used to be like 6 children you could have, where that could open up some slots because you can increase how many home-based there are. I think that the parents have an onus to see if that's a safe place for their child, if they want their child to be in a home care situation. I fully support the home care situations because I don't think that they necessarily need to have all the restrictions and the teaching that a lot of people seem to think they need. Personally, I think children need less structure at the younger ages because they need to be able to think for themselves and not have such structure that they have to do this, then do that, and just think for themselves like my kids were able to do and build and do whatever they can think of doing in a safe environment. Craftsbury, in talking about possibly building a new school, talked about having the situation where the whole gamut from the infant to the high school, they'd all be in one situation. As far as funding, the Vermont Blue Ribbon Commission on Financing High Quality Affordable Childcare they have several situations and suggestions, and I think I would look at those more closely. But I think that we have to look at the opening up of more daycares at home. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Janine. For our third question, I'm going to turn it back over to Charlie, and she'll do the questioning on that.
Yes, I will. So this is our last of our prepared questions for you all, just FYI. The state moved quickly to save lives when people who were living in congregate homeless shelters in early March were offered individualized hotel and motel rooms so they could be safe from the virus. This was a brave yet costly and unsustainable solution. Considering Vermont has a well-documented shortage of homes affordable to many Vermonters, the question now is, what's next for these individuals? How would you address the public health risks facing people without homes, and how would you address their ongoing needs? So we will start off 2 minutes for this question with Representative Lefebvre. Just keeping you on your toes.
Thanks. You know, I came of age in a time when there was an overseer of the poor and also an institution not in a too distant past called the Poor Farm to deal with these kind of situations. And now we've gone beyond that now, and the responsibility has increasingly fallen upon individual families and institutions such as the schools. I would, you know, it's not a question coming from such a rural area. It's not an issue that I'm overly familiar with, but yet, you know, listening is a very good legislative skill. And it's one I've acquired by being a newspaper reporter for most of my life. And I would listen to what the folks in the urban Vermont have to say about the difficulties they have had in finding places to bring the homeless or to shelter them. And I also think for the short run, we're going to have, obviously, empty rooms in college dormitories. And perhaps they could lend an effort in providing some shelter for folks who have nowhere else to go. And basically have the added burden of not coming down sick or exposing other people. But as I say, this is as far as a long-term response to what can we do about the homeless. Well, I think that does deal with, it's an economic question, and one it's going to the answers are going to have to unfold as we go forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Strong, you have 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. I have some background in the homelessness issue. I'm on the board of Rural Edge, which is for Northeast Kingdom, a wonderful organization, nonprofit that helps with affordable housing and is committed to reducing homelessness and offering a certain percentage of their apartments are for homelessness, but also serving on the housing committee in our state house. The 2 years I served there, they were very committed to what was really a lofty goal, ending homelessness. And I don't know that logistically that's totally possible because so many people don't really fit the normal look of a homeless person. It can be a family struggling, a single mom, someone who lost a job, someone just out of college, and in a way they're couch surfing. So homelessness is a little bit of a broad term, but some of the great things that we are doing in Vermont that's good news, and I'm hoping these models come to the Northeast Kingdom, is they took actually UVM Medical Center took the Ho Hum Motel and turned it into small apartments that the homeless could stay in. And at those facilities, and this has been done in several places around Vermont, there's wraparound services for health care, mental health support, transportation, counseling to find work, training, and just all around support. So we've got some great models that even aren't really that expensive that we could do right here in the Northeast Kingdom. And I'm hoping that'll offer support for folks who are struggling with homelessness as we go forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Representative Marcotte. You have 2 minutes.
Thanks, Charlie. That 2 minutes goes by awful fast. So Vicki is correct with UVM, but also I think the state is also looking at purchasing some of these facilities that have closed, motels, to rehab them and start putting a system together to aid the homeless population within the state. But also when we talk about affordable housing, we need to keep in mind that we need affordable housing not just for our poor people, but also for our workers that are working at lower end jobs. Even if they're making $15 to $18 to $20 an hour, it's still difficult for them to find a rental property. So I think that we need to look at the whole scope of the issue of affordable housing. And I know that there are some thoughts in place that General Housing is looking at on the House side anyway, and we'll continue to look at the whole issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Janine Young, are you still with us? We can come back to Janine. So next, Catherine Sims and Wyatt as well. You have 2 minutes.
Great, thanks. I think we all know that the Northeast Kingdom is a beautiful place to live and work and raise a family, but unfortunately, too many in our community struggle to access housing and internet, as we've talked about, and childcare. And these are critical infrastructure needs in order for our region to continue to thrive and recruit, attract, and retain the workforce that we need for the future. I believe that we must work hard to make sure that all residents' basic needs like housing are met. Over the past several months in my role as director of the Northeast Kingdom Collaborative, we've been building a recovery plan for the region. And the part of that effort did over 30 interviews with experts in the region and statewide level about the inequities that have been exposed during this crisis and identifying top priorities and strategies to address those challenges. And one of those top five priorities areas that we heard for this region were housing. We heard that over 100 individuals were homeless in the Northeast Kingdom. So this is an issue alive and well in our region because of a lack of housing and a lack of supportive services to care for community members struggling with chronic homelessness. And so I believe that we must build or designate long-term supportive housing for those struggling with chronic homelessness, and simultaneously ensure that we have integrated services to address the mental health, physical health, and social needs of those struggling with homelessness so that we can prevent future homelessness. These are all critical infrastructure needs for our region, and we must provide and protect and care for Vermonters' basic needs. And these investments will help save our state in the long run, that when everyone's basic needs are met, families rely less on social support services because they have a better quality of life and they are healthier. And so we must do more to invest in permanent year-round supportive housing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I just saw that someone new joined us by phone. Is that perhaps Janine?
Yes, I lost my internet. We were talking about internet service. We had to reset the modem. Yeah, so I don't know if you already missed my turn or what.
I missed it, but if you caught the question that we asked, I would love to give you an opportunity to answer, and if not, I can repeat it for you.
Okay, just a second here. Let me try to start the video, but it's not doing that. Okay, it's connecting. All right, we were talking about the homeless situation, is that right?
Yes, we were talking about kind of emergency response to people experiencing homelessness during COVID-19, as well as more long-term solutions to the affordable housing crisis in Vermont. Okay,
well, one of the things that I think we need to do is to assess why people don't have a home, and some of these we've already talked about. From my conversations with the director of a homeless shelter, drugs and alcoholism are two big factors with homelessness. So I think we need to make sure that we offer them the help to overcome their addictions. But the another thing is, I asked, well, what about welfare? Are they on welfare so that they could move into a home? And what he said was they have trouble getting their first and last month's rent to even get into a home. So I think that we could try and help them with getting into a home, so that if we help them get into a home, either a low interest loan or a loan, and why something like that, well, I think we need to try and help them help themselves, not just give handouts. So that's one thing. Buying their own motels is probably a good idea if they are being run right. I heard that some of them need security guards because of the fights that are happening at some of those homes. So I don't know if that's going on in many places, one place, or what. I think that sometimes the government gets involved, and it's even worse for like the low-income homes that Mr. Marcotte, Representative Marcotte was talking about. I know a developer who said that the HUD housing, the low-income housing, it costs as much to build a whole house for each apartment. So I think, why is that? Why wouldn't an apartment be less expensive than a house? So I think those are some of the things we need to look at. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Janine, and I'm sorry about your connectivity issues.
If I can get everybody back.
So next, Senator Starr.
Yes, thank you. Over the past couple of years, we've developed and built 965 either homes and apartments around the state through a bonding issue, and then through direct appropriations from the state through our budget. And this renting motels for homeless people in the winter is a totally lost cause. We spend millions and millions of dollars renting these rooms, and then come spring and good weather, the people are gone and they move out and our money's gone and we have not a thing to show for it but to keep those folks warm for a few nights. And what I think what we need to do is have community, especially like in our hubs of our counties, we need to have centers that are sponsored by the state and through a nonprofit with all the necessary wraparound services to take care of these people and to try to move them forward and into the workplace as we regroup them. But the old system of renting these motels and paying out hundreds of thousands of dollars is not a good way to spend money. We should buy those places, and each community, I bet in our district or my district, has some property in that community where the owner has just walked away from it. It's abandoned. Maybe we should set up a program where through VHCB, we could give communities money to fix this house up and then lease it to a nonprofit for homeless people. But there's better ways of doing it than we're doing it right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Martha Allen. You have 2 minutes.
There have been several good ideas that have come up during the course of the conversation. And this problem is really something that we need to face head on. With Vermont being so cold in the winter, it's heartbreaking from an educator's point of view to see what so many children have to go through, not just in the cold, but any old time, without having a roof over their head when they come to school after living in questionable areas in a car or wherever. You can't expect them to be able to learn to the best of their ability and be able to keep their mind on their math page or project when they don't know where they're going to be sleeping that night. So it's critical that we deal with this. So I was trying to think about how to do this with limited funding, and many of you have said some of these ideas, and I was once again thinking of our state colleges where we don't have the same population. Now with more students working remotely, maybe there'll be some space that we could allocate building and make apartments, not just short term, but convert into apartments, maybe for veterans also, so that we use state-owned buildings and renovate them is the nub of that. The other concern, however, is transportation. A lot of these folks don't have reliable transportation, and if we set them up in a home that's somewhere that's not easy to access services, that's a problem. So if we can bring services to them and help with public transportation perhaps, so that they have that support, it would be one way to move forward. Thanks.
Thank you. And last but not least, we have Representative Page. You have 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Keep in mind, because we're going through a pandemic, this situation is probably going to get worse before it's going to get better because of spacing requirements. So I'll just put that out there. In addition, the state of Vermont paid nearly $16 million for its hotel voucher program this past year, and the feds have covered about 12 million of that. But it's clear, as you described in your question, that this cannot continue. We just don't have the money. And also, not all of the individual inhabitants of those local hotels or motels did this, but there was a great deal of vandalism involved, and it cost the state quite a bit of money to fix up those facilities. We could look at building or buying those facilities. I don't think that's a good idea for the state. In many cases, you know, a lot of citizens are not happy about having a homeless shelter in their backyard, and they face a lot of criticism for that. I don't think when we give out housing to individuals that we should just, you know, give these individuals a room and leave. There should be some sort of integrated social and health services for these individuals. And then finally, we have provided a great deal of funding for housing for those that are homeless. And I know that our housing stock is old, but I hope we don't just start going into our communities and tearing down homes and building new modern style housing for these individuals. I think it's important that we maintain our architecture and our bucolic, picturesque towns with these old facilities. So those are just some of my ideas. I think ultimately we'll probably have to depend on the feds for much of our funding, which we currently are doing now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, all of you, for your answers. And I will turn it over to Linda, who's going to facilitate closing statements. And I will again maintain the timekeeper role. So keep an eye on my backs.
Right. Thanks, Charlie. So I just want to say how grateful I am to all of you for coming tonight. This has been so informative to hear all of your thoughts on these questions. So we're going to move into your closing statements before we see if there are any questions from our small audience. So I'll start alphabetically, but in reverse order. So we have 2 minutes, I believe, for the closing statement from each of you. So we'll begin with Janine Young.
As a Northeast Kingdom native, growing up in Glover and Hardwick, I am the candidate who can relate to the issues of our residents. I know what it's like to be in their shoes. I started out growing up on a farm. I attended small schools, and I know what it's like to struggle. I didn't move into the Northeast Kingdom and then find what needs to be done. My husband Joe and I raised 3 sons. He's a retired federal law enforcement officer. I have a wide variety of experience to use in working with the other legislators on numerous issues in almost any committee in the legislature. As a former village trustee and water and sewer commissioner, I advocated for and worked on common sense solutions to village water and sewer issues. I've worked in and volunteered in schools. I've worked in permitting, so I have experience in real life effects that regulations have on businesses and ordinary homeowners. I have knowledge of what those in law enforcement face each day. I've studied a range of health-related issues and can provide perspective that might not otherwise be offered. Having earned my paralegal certificate, I can use that in every area of the legislature. As your representative, I will always ask myself these questions. Is it good for the people? Is it good for the state? How will this affect people? And what might be the unintended consequences? I dare to say that I have attended more legislative breakfasts in Newport than any current legislator or candidate, with the exception of Senator Starr. And I would say that I am the most well-rounded candidate, and I ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Janine. Representative Strong.
Thank you very much. And I've enjoyed this forum, and thank you again for hosting. As a legislator that's been in our State House for 10 years, I've learned and grown, seen the needs up close of those I serve. My favorite part about being a legislator is the one-on-one time I have with my constituents, hearing their needs. And often all the other legislators here on this Zoom meeting know the work involved with the contact we have with constituents and year round. And that's one of my most favorite jobs, I guess, of this whole legislature, just helping my constituents have their needs met. I will be completely committed to keeping Vermont affordable, making it more affordable actually, trying to keep our small schools vibrant and strong in our communities that helps families stay there, to help businesses recover from COVID, the shock and the trauma it's been to so many of them, to keep our farms operating, particularly dairy, that's having a very difficult time right now, and to keep in mind that we need to keep our clean air and our clean water as a priority. So I hope to go back to legislature. I serve with joy and passion, and I ask for support coming up in November. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Strong. We'll go to Senator Starr next.
Senator Starr,
Yeah.
you're still muted.
You're muted.
And
Oh,
this
I
is
tried it.
preferable for us. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad Janine straightened that attendance out at the legislative breakfasts. But anyhow, being retired, I try to attend most all of them. But anyhow, over the past many years, I've served the people of our district first here in the Missisquoi Valley, and for the last 16 years, the 2 counties plus a couple of other towns, Richford, Montgomery, and Wilka. And I've enjoyed the people in intermingling with our citizens of our district, very much. And they have basically paid to train me over all these years to do the work for them that they'd like to have done. And I think I have a lot of experience. I sit on the Appropriations Committee and chair the Ag Committee, which are both very important to our people. And I think I'm, sitting in a pretty good position to really help and I, help other legislators from our area, even getting bills through and things. And it's really great when you can do a lot of good things when you work together. And if you're split and divided and argue and all those things, you don't really accomplish much. And it takes the whole crew to accomplish good things. And we have reapportionment facing us in the future. And we all know how our numbers are running. And we've got to be on top of that game or we could lose some seats. So anyways, I've enjoyed my the years, and I think I've hopefully served the people well and would like to go back and serve another couple of years. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Starr. And we'll move to Catherine Sims.
Great, thanks Linda and Charlie and everyone. This has been a real wonderful opportunity to talk about the critical issues that our region faces. So thanks for creating this space. So I moved up here almost 20 years ago to milk cows at Butterworks Farm with Jack and Ann Laser. And while I moved up here for a job, what I found was so much more than I ever could have imagined. I found community. I found people who care for their neighbors, people who are working hard and raising resilient children and know the value of getting outdoors and enjoying all 5 of Vermont's seasons, including mud season. Found people who are turning really great ideas into entrepreneurial success and people coming together to do big things. I am so proud to be a resident of this community and to have put down roots and raising my family here in Grassberry. And now I want to bring all of these voices to the State House in Montpelier. I believe that our rural communities are the heart of Vermont, but too often our state policies are leaving our communities behind. Too many in our district are struggling to access housing, healthcare, childcare, internet, the issues that we've been talking about this evening. The path to recovery for many of our small businesses right now is uncertain. And with the latest challenge in Northern Vermont University, access to affordable higher education in our region is threatened. But I'm not daunted by these issues. These are the challenges that motivate me to want to serve. I believe that Vermont can emerge from this crisis stronger, more equitable, more inclusive, and more resilient if we seize this opportunity. For over a decade, I've listened hard to our communities and worked hard to bring people together to implement creative solutions to the issues of broadband, childcare, access to healthy food for all children in our communities, and creating new markets for our farmers. I believe I have the track record that you want in a representative. I have a reputation for getting things done, for uniting diverse voices, and for being a strong advocate for our most vulnerable. I will work hard as a strong advocate for our communities to rebuild our rural economy, to invest in working Vermonters, and modernize our infrastructure. I'd be honored to represent our community, and thank you for your support.
Thank you, Catherine. Representative Page.
When you look at my responses to your questions, I'm not certain that I have come up with any real solutions. In my own examples, I've pointed to the feds for assistance, and I'm not certain that we can continue to rely on that in the future. We've been very fortunate in some ways with the pandemic, with all the monies that we've received. We're one of 2 states that, the other one is Wyoming, that's really received the greatest amount of money in our country for the COVID-19 issue. And I'm not sure that this monies will continue into the future. I'm also, I'm not optimistic that our state can continue to tax and spend as it currently does. Our state may have to make some difficult decisions in the coming years of what we're going to be able to support and what we're going to be cutting. Now I've been negative in my final comments, so I'm going to try and be positive now and leave you on a positive note. The best part of being a legislator that I have found is not sitting in committees or sitting in the Great Hall, but it is simply helping people with their health issues, helping people try to get their unemployment issues resolved, supporting our state colleges, trying to help individuals get broadband access. And that's what I take from my job. That's the most important thing I can possibly do, is to help our communities and our people of Vermont and the Northeast Kingdom. So thank you.
Thank you, Representative Page. We'll go to Representative Marcotte for your closing statement.
Thank you, Linda. I didn't do very well in introducing myself at the beginning. I was more interested, I think, in getting to the question than letting people know more about me. But I, like Bobby, I usually go by the name of Mike. And I was born in Newport. I was born and raised, went to Sacred Heart schools, graduated Sacred Heart High School. My wife and I have 2 boys. One lives here with my granddaughter in Newport, and the other is in North Carolina in Raleigh with his wife. And we own a store. We've owned a convenience store in Newport for the past 37 years. So we're well established. My family's been well established in running businesses in Newport. I am a Republican, and I am the only Republican chair in the House of Representatives. And I take that as I'm someone that can work with either side of the aisle, or all 3 sides of the aisle, or 4 if you count the independents. The people that I work with here, our legislators, we all work very well together. I have worked with Bobby on numerous times trying to make sure that we get the dollars that we need here in the kingdom. We do very well when we need to. But it is going to be a very difficult time that we're going to see in the next, I think, at least 2 budget years. And with those difficulties come a lot of work and a lot of decisions that'll have to be made that probably won't be too popular. But I'm ready to work with all of our delegation, no matter who they may be, to make sure that we do the right thing for the Northeast Kingdom, but do the right thing for Vermonters as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Representative Marcotte. And Representative Lefebvre.
Thank you, Linda, for inviting me to participate in this forum, which, and thanks for having it at a time when we can't meet and debate face to face. I've served in the legislature 6 years now, and have served exclusively in the House Committee on Natural Resources and Fish and Wildlife, the last 2 years being the vice chair of that committee. I went to the legislature with the intention of doing what I could to preserve the political and cultural integrity of small towns. I believe small towns are at the heart of Vermont. And I was very worried that we were losing more and more power as authority was being increasingly consolidated in Montpelier. What Montpelier does not seem to get is that the people who come to Vermont, are attracted to Vermont, want to be part of a sense of community. And they look to do that when they arrive here, and they're so thankful that it still exists. And you know, I mean, if there, as I said, if there's an upstart or an upside to COVID, it may be the one that brings us closer together as a community, and seeing in terms of how we can get by, what we can do to make life better for our neighbors. We are going to be in for hard times because of COVID has pretty much ravaged our economy, and we're going to have to build it back, and that will take time. But what we can do and build on is our sense of who we are and the place and where we live. Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. And we'll move to Martha Allen for your closing statement.
Thank you. A little fun fact from my perspective. I'm a Flatlander. I came to Vermont in 1977. So, you know, I'm trying to earn my keep, but still, I know it doesn't count. Except that my great-grandparents lived in Vermont, and my great-grandfather served in the legislature with George Aiken, and he's the guy who coined the name the Northeast Kingdom. So I get some cred there, I hope. Anyway, I'm a retired public school teacher from Canaan, where my late husband and I built our home and raised our 2 sons. I have a deep appreciation for the Northeast Kingdom and enjoy a variety of hobbies, both indoors and out. A proud grandmother of a young Vermonter. Both of my sons do live in Vermont now, so I'm really happy. The rural nature of this part of the state is one that I want to preserve, and at the same time encourage growth by bringing more young families and businesses into the area. So I spent 30 years of teaching, and from there I served for 9 years as president of Vermont NEA. So I worked with many politicians at the State House, and many of those relationships I continue today. And if elected when serving as state rep, I'll have the ability to give issues of concern from the NEK a voice and move them forward. COVID-19 has shown many inequities in our state, especially in the Northeast Kingdom, the internet being one. So we really need to continue to fight for equal access up here. I support working families, public education, the rights of all people to be treated equitably. affordable quality health care, a clean environment that attracts tourists and Vermonters to our area year-round. I want to support and increase services to our small communities so that they attract and retain young professionals and families, and I hope that community schools can help to do that. I hope my energy and enthusiasm will help to get our voice heard from the Northeast Kingdom. Thank you.
Thank you, Martha.
Another baby.
Charlie, do you want to take over for a couple minutes till the end?
Absolutely. So as you may have seen, we have been recording this session. If any of you would not like this recording to be distributed for some reason, please let Linda know in the next 24 hours. We just had such a productive conversation, and I know that there were a lot of people that really wanted to hear it but couldn't be here at this time. And so we would love to push it out through our networks if possible. But for the folks that are here, if there are any audience members who have specific questions for our candidates, I welcome you to unmute and voice them. And if not, I know we all have bedtimes that are coming up. People of all ages have bedtimes that are coming up. I have bedtime that's coming up. So if that's the case, I will just put the link to the Early Childhood Advocacy Alliance's website in the chat, as well as my email. And for audience members, if you have any questions about voting and voting safely on November 3rd or beforehand, you should feel free to reach out to me by email. I'm happy to answer any of your questions. And if I can't answer them, I will connect you with someone who can. And candidates, if you would like to have a Zoom coffee with me, you have questions about early childhood policy, I don't know, you want to connect with me for any reason, you should feel free to email me anytime. I will talk with anyone for any reason. I'm a public engagement director. What can I say? So thank you all so much for taking the time to be with us this evening and for your commitment to the people of Vermont. Linda, do you have any last words?
Just the same. As I said, I'm so grateful to all of you. And along the lines of what Charlie said, you know, if re-elected or if elected after the elections, please let us know how we can help you to do your job. We really want to be engaged with you. So thank you all again, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Just remember, our doors are always open too.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for hosting. Very good.
Yes,
You're welcome.
indeed.
Thanks all.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Have a good
Good
night.
night,
you.
everyone.
Take care,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you.
Hi.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Night, baby
Thanks,
Sims.
everyone. Good night. Shoot.